Hi everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. This is the third in the series that we are doing around our local sector strength finder modelling, and I'd like us to just bear with me a minute just to see whether we have any more attendees that are due to join us. It is Friday afternoon after all. Right, I'll get started then. So today we're going to look at building a local industrial strategy fit for the future. There is an option to ask questions as you go. I am going to be hosting and presenting this afternoon. My name is Will Cookson. I'm the Business Development Manager at Emsi, responsible for the work we do in the economic development field. I'm just going to talk through the agenda that we've got today. I'll spend a brief time introducing Emsi for those of you that don't know us, and I'm going to talk about the challenge that organisations that are involved with localising the industrial strategy are potentially going to be facing as that work needs to be done through till March 2019, I believe. I'm going to also talk about our work around cluster classifications. I want to focus on particularly what makes a local economy different to the national picture or to their peers in other areas. We're also going to look at what kind of growth you may be looking for. What industries would you be looking to grow, and what are the signs regarding the industries that you would want to focus on, i.e. what to look for. We're also going to talk a bit about quality employment versus employment. We'll finish up by talking about bringing insight to strategy and next steps, and there's an opportunity to respond to questions as they're raised at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I will continue. So I'd just like to spend a brief amount of time just talking about Emsi. Our mission really is to use labour market information to connect people, education, and employers to allow organisations to make better decisions based on stronger evidence relating to the local economy. We do that through helping organisations understand and gain insight on the local labour market so they can make strategic and tactical decisions. We're well established in three main markets: economic development, where we work with local authorities and local enterprise partnerships; education, where we work with further education and higher education institutions; and also employment, where we work with welfare to work organisations and also organisations and businesses focused on talent development and recruitment. So as I said at the start, the focus of today is really looking at how local industrial strategies can be developed. This is obviously on the back of the published industrial strategy, which came out last November, and there's a clear drive in there that they need to be localized. Now, we've identified a few challenges. I'm sure you may have other suggestions, but from where we're sitting, we see that there are issues around resource and capacity within LEPs and local authorities who have a broadening remit with the drive around devolution, and not necessarily a growing resource or capacity in which to meet that need. We see there's a challenge here for this not to be a revised strategic economic plan. We know that strategic economic plans have existed for obviously a good number of years, but the challenge here is to take a fresh look at your local economy, and also to make fresh asks of central government. This can't be a uniform response. We have definitely seen that many local enterprise partnerships will have similar priority sectors. We see the challenge at the moment to be able to demonstrate how your local area is different from either the national picture or those commonalities that have maybe come to the forefront with the within recent years. So to really understand the difference is the challenge, and also to identify the right growth, the growth that's going to make a difference to your local economy and benefit the communities within it. Sorry, bear with me a second. So to succeed, you'll need to gain understanding of what is unique to your local area. What makes you stand out from other areas? Gain insight on industries where there is the potential for growth and be able to evidence that that is the case. And really be able to tell a story about why your area is unique and different. So being able to make reference to the national picture and what you have locally is absolutely critical. Really importantly, it's absolutely essential that you have actionable intelligence so that you can localize the industrial strategy based on hard evidence. We believe we can support you in many ways with this activity, but what I'd like to talk about today is how we can help you to understand what industries are driving your local economies, where there are potential strengths, opportunities and threats. And we'll focus today more on the strengths and opportunities, but we will come on to some risks as we go through. We want to ensure that you're best placed to build a local industrial strategy that can help develop high growth industrial clusters. Now, apologies to anyone that may have seen this before, but I'd like to go through it for anyone that's new to us. So this piece of work that we've been doing around the sector strength founders, sector strength finder work, is focused on industry clusters, which is a way to group sectors within a local economy based on their economic links with one another. So we look at how industries co-locate, may share their workforce, and the way that the supply chain connects. So what we've done is we've looked at a new cluster for classification that puts every industry into a cluster. It's absolutely important that we look at that in relation to being able to compare a local economy with those of peers and national comparisons, and also takes into account the supply chain. It allows us to home in on key occupations and understand industry skills demand through task-based analysis. And we'll do a deep dive into some of the task-based analysis later in this presentation. We'll also look at targeting the right type of growth. And by that, what we're really saying is what makes your area different and what is the potential to grow beyond the national average. And sitting behind this, we think it's absolutely critical that we bring data to the work that's been done, arranging it in sensible steps where we can explore, prioritize, investigate, and act. So we started with 560 plus industries at the 4-digit SIC level. And what we've done then is we've localized employment data for each one of these. So where we've got to with local industrial clusters is that we've got that down to 49 clusters that show the linkages and the supply chains within each of those clusters. So the best way to describe this really is we've looked at how an industry will serve local needs, and we've made a distinction here between whether they are local or tradable. So by local, what we're looking at is the industries that will serve a local need locally. So we can look at healthcare, can look at education, and these tend to be clusters that you will find in every area, wherever there are people. They may be larger or smaller, but essentially they will be everywhere. They won't make an area distinct. Whereas when we look at tradable industrial clusters, these are industries where they tend to export nationally or internationally. So where the cluster is based will not be where the product is necessarily consumed. And these tend to be the industrial clusters where you will see a difference in terms of what makes your area different. When looking at the analysis around the clusters, we've looked at whether they're local or tradable, whether they're co-located. Do industries have employment in the same places? Do they work together? Do their supply chains mesh together? And are they using the same workforce? Do they rely on similar occupations and similar skill sets? And are they buying and selling from each other? Do they exchange goods and so on? Using these measures, as I said, we've been able to take 568 industries and bring that down to 49 clusters. And you can see here the full list, and in black you can see the tradable clusters, and in green you can see the local. So I thought what would be interesting now is to look at your local strengths compared to national trends. And the way in which we do that is you'll see a graph obviously in front of you now. On the y-axis, you will see national growth and projections going up to 10%. So this is 10% above the national, or minus 15% at the very bottom there. And on the x-axis, you'll see the location quotient, which is the proportion of growth in compared to the national. So really what this is saying is there more of this in a particular area? And you'll see the vertical line there, which is around 1.2. Anything beyond that 1.2 means that you have a higher proportion of it locally than you would find nationally. And you've got 4 quadrants here, which looks at opportunities, strengths, and threats. What would probably help is that if I show you an example. So today we're going to focus on the Leicester and Leicestershire area, and you'll see here a number of clusters that are present within that area, and the green bubbles that you can see there relate to local clusters, and the grey relate to tradable clusters. Now you can see in the top right quadrant, you can see some strengths coming out and jumping out at us. So the top right, or the highest up in the right quadrant, you can see logistics and e-commerce, but you can also see professional services just nudging across from the kind of national average. So there is a slightly higher proportion there in Leicester and Leicestershire than you would find nationally. And you can also see strengths in utility. Yes, and obviously the size of the circle shows the size of the presence of that particular cluster. Now I thought it'd be interesting to have a look into logistics and e-commerce in more detail. So I'm going to go on to the next slide where we can do that. Okay, here in the top right and the highest up there, you can see warehouse and storage, where you can see that there's 15% growth, and you can see that there's healthy growth in this sector. Now, this is partly explained by there is a big logistics hub in Leicester and Leicestershire, around south of the county, around Magna Park. There's a lot of warehouse and storage. So we're not surprised to see that, but you can immediately see that that is a strength and something that makes them different to many of their peers or to the national picture. You can also see postal and courier activities here, which is just below the line, but still quite far out. So we can see that there's a much higher proportion of it than you would find locally. The projected growth isn't particularly high, but a high presence of it. And that would be explained by East Midlands Airport in the north of the Leicester and Leicestershire region. You can also see postal courier activity in there as well, and cargo handling as well, which will be related to East Midlands Airport. Down in the bottom left, you'll see that there's freight rail transport, renting of leasing of trucks, and inland freight water transport. Not much in regards to growth there. There is, it's steady. It's not steady growth, and the challenge there would be whether there's interventions that could take place that can move them into one of the other quadrants on the right-hand side. But my focus, I'd imagine, and the focus of someone looking at this in regards to local economy would be more on warehouse and storage, freight transport, and potentially around that postal and courier activities. Moving on, we have a very colourful chart here. This is a cluster tree map. And essentially what we're looking at here is the rectangular blocks that you will see will be based on the size of the cluster, and the colour going from the dark blue through to the bright yellow is the location quotient. So getting towards the yellow, we can see with textiles and apparel, for example, and extractives up on the top right hand side. These are areas where these are quite unique industries. There's a fair proportion of them locally, but it's more that they stand out as being very different to the national picture. You can also see food and drink production, and you can use this as a way of identifying. Going back to the last slide, you can see logistics and e-commerce down that bottom right hand column there. Again, a different way of looking at the makeup of the cluster makeup of a local area. And as you'll see health and care, commercial services in dark blue, because they essentially is very similar to the national picture. It's not something that makes Leicestershire and Leicester particularly different. The next slide, we're looking at task-based analysis. So these are work activities that take place in Leicester and Leicestershire. And this is where occupations and jobs, more to the point, are broken down by the key tasks that are taking place within a role. Again, this is related to the way that we look at economy through clusters, but also it has a related use in that you can start to look at potential risks to the workforce, and also you can see how occupations may be able, skill sets that are needed and tasks that are needed may be at risk from elements like or threats such as automation. You can see here on this table the top left rectangle there, which is looking at handling and moving objects. This is a big role for this area, and obviously is a much higher proportion of these types of tasks in the area than you would find elsewhere. And this will be related, we would suggest, to the logistics and e-commerce type activity, but also the courier work that we identified on the previous slide. You'll also see big roles or big tasks in relation to identifying objects, actions, and events, and controlling machines and processes, which you can see middle top. Task-based analysis is particularly interesting when we look at risk of automation. Here we've looked at the automation score, which basically picks out jobs that have greater than 70% of task content that could be automated, given our understanding of current emerging technologies. So really everything in this top right area has potential risk, and many of them, the higher ones, so furniture and wood products, paper and packaging, plastics, vulcanized products, manufacturing type activity, but very much the tasks, many of the tasks that have been identified within that industrial cluster could be at risk of automation, or greater risk of automation, I should say. We think it's really important that the type of data that I've been showing you today is used to support the development of industrial strategies. We believe that strategy should obviously be used to drive interventions, but it needs to be supported by hard data that can help to target the industries that you want to grow, and tell a clear story to central government in regards to what you're asking for, and being able to define your area, your local area, and show what's different and makes it unique. I believe data should come to strategy, not the other way round, as it's no use if data's coming to this late in the picture. So it's important that the evidence has been gathered now in order to inform the work that's been done on localizing industrial strategies, and other work that's been done in regards to identifying areas, potential areas for growth within the local economy. We think that bringing local data into the picture is absolutely critical. It's really important that there is a local idea of where there's potential to grow beyond the national picture. What can again make you different from your peers? We also think it's important that you understand the interplay between local strengths, national trends, and global disruption, such as the threats around automation that we were just looking at. So where do we get to with this? We believe that Emsi data could be used to support the localizing of industrial strategy. We believe there's an opportunity to move away from the generic priority sectors that we have seen. Many LEPs following a similar direction of travel in regards to priority sectors, and we see there's an opportunity now to potentially shake that up and to look more at what makes an area unique. We think it's important that there's a clear understanding of what makes your economy different that can be evidenced, really in relation to the national picture. We also think there's a huge opportunity to bring really strong evidence and data to support the ask of central government in regards to your devolution process, and also really how central government can support growth within your local economy. I'd like to make you aware of a few things that we have at the moment there. If you haven't seen one of these, do look on our website. The web link is here, or do make contact with myself to download a free report for your area. This gives you brief analysis of the key local industry clusters in your area. If you want to discuss specific challenges and potential solutions, please do make contact with myself, Will Cookson. My email is on here, phone number as well, and also you can get in contact through our website as well. Now I'm just going to check whether we've had any questions raised. No questions raised. What I would like to say is, if anyone has questions that they will think of after the webinar, or anyone that's listening to a recording of this, please make contact in order to do that. Finally, I'd just like to make you aware that our next webinar is looking at the Sector Strength Finder tool, which is currently under development, and we'll be showing some of the ways in which that can support this type of activity. That's a tool that will be going live it should be going live in May. Which brings me on to our national conference. So this is the Emsi conference for 2018. This is in Birmingham on the 15th of May, and looking at people, place and prosperity, with a large part of the agenda devoted to kind of things that we've been talking about today around economic development. So if you would like to sign up for that, and I'd urge you to do so, then do go to our website where you can register. Right, that brings me to an end. I'd just like to thank you all for joining the webinar, and I will look forward to speaking to you again on Thursday, the 3rd of May. Take care. Bye-bye.